All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Channel 6 Community Focus here in Nelson County. I'm Kenny Fogle, your host. Glad you could join us today. We're going to talk to we always want to talk to interesting people in our community that's making a difference, people that's making a difference in your life. Well, you maybe even not know it or not, because they've been around doing things, and I've got one of the people here that I consider one of the doers. I mean, somebody that's been a friend of mine for many, many years is Miss Margie Bradford. Margie, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Well, and when I say a doer, and I'm going to get into some of why I say that here in a few minutes, but before I do, we're going to get into something. You got an honor last week. There's one of many over the years, but looking back at some clippings that we found back, going all the way back to 1973, you were the driving force behind getting a school nurse into the Bardstown school system. And now it's developed into much more than that, and much more than just a school nurse there. And you were given an honor last week by the Bardstown Board of Education. Tell me exactly what it was that they honored you for.
Well, first I'm going to go back to 1973. There were a bunch of us parents who were involved in PTO. Mm-hmm. And Dixie Hibbs and I, of course, good friends, and so we worked together on a lot of these things. I happened to be, my first job as a PTO officer was a school health chairman. And we found out that if a child was hurt, they fell off a slide or had a sore throat or whatever it was, you'd go to the school clerk. And the school clerk would call the parent, and then they had just a little cot in the back room. Mm-hmm. They had maybe Band-Aids, and I don't think they even had a thermometer, but that was the extent of any kind of care. Well, in our group of parents, there were parents who had children who had diabetes, who needed, to be able to take care of any issue related to their diabetes, and a number of other things. So we decided that what the school needed, what the school district needed, was a school nurse. Mm-hmm. After reading the regulations from the state about what a school health officer should do, we realized that school wasn't doing any of those things. And so we went to the school board and presented our findings and the school board was persuaded, and we hired a registered nurse. Mm-hmm. To be on duty at all times during the school day. And our first school nurse was Nancy Robinson. Mm-hmm. So, yes, that's the picture of the
Thursday, September 13, 1973.
Right. So that was the beginning, you might say. Of course, it's a natural interest of mine because I'm a registered nurse. Uh-huh. And so health is a very natural thing for me to be interested in. The honor that I received was for my work toward getting a clinic, mm-hmm. a school-based health clinic.
Well, let's back up just a little bit. I bet we'll get into the school-based clinic, but
surely.
PTO, that was just the start. I mean, you spent a few years on the Bardstown Board of Education after that.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I was elected to the Bardstown School Board in 1978 and mm-hmm. took office in 79. I actually ran in 74. Mm-hmm. At that time, there really weren't any women, just didn't run for the school board. Now, that's hard to believe, but that's true. And so it was a kind of a thing, here I am running for the school board. I didn't win. Kenny Rapier won that open seat. It was an open seat, and there were about 8 or 10 people were running. And so
there's no dishonor in getting beat by Kenny.
No, absolutely not. No, and wasn't anybody could have beaten him. But I ran the next term, mm-hmm. which would be 4 years later, and because Kenny decided to run for the state legislature. Yeah. He didn't run for re-election. And he told me at that time, he said, "Now, Margie, I'll help you." He said, "You should have won last time. You knew more about it than I did."
Well, what was your driving force for running for the school board the first time? Was this health clinic part of it, or what was it that you wanted to do?
Not really. I mean, we had our nurse, and I was happy with that. But there was
Got a taste of blood, though, haven't you?
Well, I became aware. I was aware of what you can get done if you're willing to get out and work. And there were no women on the school board. Had never been anyone on the school board. So I ran for the school board, and Martha Gentry filed also. So we were the first two women to run for the school board and be elected. So, and then I think in '81, I was the first woman chairman of the Bardstown School Board.
So this Bardstown Clinic, basically, did it follow along a few years later after the school nurse, or was the school nurse basically at that time the clinic in herself, and it just later built on to it?
No, well, no, the clinic, now we have a school nurse there, and we have a school nurse over in the primary. So we have a school nurse. Any child gets sick or hurt, or, they go to the school nurse, they're seen by the school nurse, they're evaluated if they need to go to a physician. The parents are called, the child goes to see a physician. We've been doing this since 1973. Around 1996, I was elected to the National School Boards Association Board of Directors. And I was made chairman of their school health committee. And in that position, I represented NSBA on a lot of different national panels and committees and things like that. I was exposed to a lot of new ideas. One of the committees that I was on was Robert Wood Johnson Research Committee, and we were evaluating the value of school-based health clinics. So it was my job to find out what we were doing in Kentucky. And so I came back and visited school health clinics in Kentucky. And there were very few. There was one in northern Kentucky, and it was funded by funds both coming from Ohio and Kentucky in funding that clinic. There were two clinics in Lexington. Dr. Tom Young, who was a pediatrician at the University of Kentucky, had fostered those school-based health clinics, and he drew funding in from a number of different sources to get those done. And they were in schools where they had a large homeless population, transient population, and they were just wonderful because the child could come in there and they could get their physicals, they could get regular checkups, they were able to have medicine, all without leaving there or going to a doctor's office. And I was just so enthused with the idea that I brought it back to Bardstown and talked to our Robert Smotherman. And we tried very hard to try to get one started, but you needed to be able to have, it has to be under the direction of a physician. You have to have a physician available for consultation and have a school nurse practitioner.
Yeah, they don't come cheap.
No, but you have to have a physician who will be over the whole process. We were not able to get that done at that time and kept trying. And have just worked on it all along, trying to get that done. And this last year, the Physicians to Children agreed to do that. Dr. Lindsay Blackman.
Oh, okay.
The name was going there. Well, she was blocked, but she's was really a driving force behind that at the Physicians for Children.
So from 1973 to 2015, I think the operative word you used there was trying. It's something you never, you just persisted. You just kept working at it.
As a school board member, I can't get in there and physically do it. But as school board members, you foster ideas. You work toward ideals of doing things or ways of doing things which is you think is the best thing for your school district.
Yeah.
And that was what I did. I kept encouraging our superintendent to do that and our school board to do that. And the opportunity happened this year that we could do that. And so we have our school-based health clinic, of which I am just absolutely thrilled about. Mm-hmm. I'd like to talk a little bit about that.
Well, absolutely. Something that you worked on for 40 years and bring to fruition, I think needs a little talking about.
Well, I think it does too. The first thing I want to say about the clinic is that we're offering these expanded services, but it is not costing the Bardstown City Schools taxpayer one dime.
That's always good.
It is not costing them anything. We have the Bardstown School System's employed our nurse, Felicia Flanagan is the nurse at the clinic, and her help. They are there as they were before. Mm-hmm. And Felicia is the gatekeeper. She's doing her job as she has done. A child comes in, she sees the child, she evaluates the child. If the child needs to see a physician or needs to go to the doctor's office, then if that child's parents has agreed to be seen by physicians to children, well, then they are referred to the nurse practitioner. Now, we have a nurse practitioner there and her aide, and they are employed by the physicians to children. So after Felicia evaluates the child, and the child needs to be seen by a physician. If the parent has given permission for them to be seen by physicians for children, they will then see the nurse practitioner. That nurse practitioner will be just like they were in the doctor's office downtown. Mm-hmm. Then they will see the child, diagnose he or she, and if they need prescriptions, to call in the prescriptions, fill out the paperwork for whatever, if they have insurance or Medicaid or whatever it is, take care of that. And if the child is well enough to go back to class, well, then they can go back to class. If they are too ill to go back, or if they're deemed contagious, then they are put into a separate room and stay there until the parent can come and pick them up. Now, if a child comes in and does not have the parents have not given permission, say they have a physician in another group, and they want then it's just like it was before. The nurse will notify, the school will notify the parent. Yeah. The parent will come, pick up the child, and take them to the doctor's office. So there's no interruption of care, and there's no change for those parents who don't want to, who have another physician. Since it's located in the elementary school, so the children that are in the primary program over in the early childhood education, kindergarten, first couple of grades, they have their school nurse there as they have had before. Mm-hmm. But if the parent wants to bring that, but they will have to notify the parent, and the parent would have to pick that child up, and they could bring them to the clinic. Mm-hmm. They still don't have to worry about making an appointment or anything. They just take the child to the clinic and take care of it that way. But the school system just doesn't have the means of transporting children back and forth on an individual basis like that. The dangers are too great about the safety of that. You need to have. We couldn't afford to have a regular bus, do kids back and forth.
Well, like I said, it's outstanding. It says on this plaque, and I guess this is going to hang at the clinic itself.
It is. It's going to be right outside
nice
the
bronze
clinic.
plaques dedicated in honor of Margie Bradford, Bardstown City Schools, for the resolute commitment to the health, well-being of students at Bardstown City Schools. Let me tell you something. I say this all the time. People take it for granted. I've taken it for granted that when you send your child to school, they're going to be well taken care of. Well, they're better taken care of now than ever before,
Yes.
and very much of it's done for this person sitting right beside of me here. And you don't realize that, and obviously you don't get thanked enough. You get a plaque, but again, there's more to it than that because. You spend 40 years of your life making sure children are well taken care of. In addition, like I said, being on the school board, and I'm sure there's other things that you probably can point at on the school board that you're quite proud of as well that you did over the last several years.
Well, I and all the other school board members and our wonderful superintendents, I have to brag on the Bardstown school system. I am so proud of that school system, because they do so many things and do it so well. We have really been out in front of the curve on so many things. We've had early childhood education beginning back 1985, opening up a 4-year-old program. The first school district in the state to do that. Then we got the 3-year-old program. Wonderful. I mean, our early childhood education helps to prepare those children. Early childhood education is so important in preparing children to learn. And it's particularly important for children in the lower socioeconomic areas, because that is one of the biggest predictors of success or lack of success. Is socioeconomic conditions. Yeah. If parents are struggling to put food on the table, they don't have as much time to sit down and read and to do the things, the other types of enrichment things that children who are in families that are not so stressed.
So one of the things I guess we can tell people is when you see somebody running for the Bardstown School Board or whatever school board it happens to be, and they think it's not really a big deal. It is a big. Who you vote for and paying attention, because I know one thing about the school boards: you don't get a lot. You don't get a lot of praise. You get a lot of criticism, obviously, because people are ready to pounce on anything you do wrong. But you go to a school board meeting, you're pretty much sitting there by yourself unless there's a big controversial issue going on.
Well, that's true. People just really do not realize how important it is, how important the attitudes of the people who are running for the school board are to the success of the school system. You have to have people who not only believe in the school system, but are willing to work for it and do whatever is best for the children. Now, I love politics. I'm a political junkie, but politics do not belong in the school system whatsoever. Yeah. It only needs to be about what is good for children, what's good for the community. Anyone who wants to mix politics in with the school board are making a terrible mistake, and people are making a terrible mistake if they vote for people along those lines.
And obviously the political part of it, people say, oh, raising taxes, but you're working with a tremendously major budget. 80% of that budget pretty much goes to personnel costs.
Yes, it does.
If you want good teachers, you got to pay for good teachers.
Yes.
And other things such as that, you got to progress, and you've got a choice between paying for a quality education or letting that education go to pot.
Well, school board members are elected for one reason only. They are elected to see that the children in their school district get the best possible education that they can possibly give them.
Yeah.
And if you run for that reason, and if your decisions are predicated on that, then you're going to be a good school board member. Kenny, you know that. You were a school board member also, so you know that you're not manufacturing widgets. You're trying to prepare children for life, and you're trying to prepare an ever increasing number of children who are not prepared to get into that school system.
So even after you've gotten off the school board, you're still very active in the Marshtown City school systems, obviously.
Yes, I'm on our school health committee, which is another one of my passions, the coordinated school health program that we started there in 2000. When did we start that? 2001. We started our coordinated school health program in 2001. And in fact, I got a Healthy Hero Award from a national organization just for helping to sponsor that, helping to get us started on that. But that was another one of those ideas I brought back from my
People don't realize, when you belong to, and I knew you were on that because it's very time consuming and a lot of work belonging to the national associations like you did.
Yeah, I was on for 6 years.
Yeah, and you traveled a lot and bringing back things back. People don't realize the value of that. They think, that's you're taking a big trip somewhere and you're having a good time, but you come back with a lot of information and ideas that you wouldn't have had if you hadn't went there.
No, absolutely. Well, in my case. Since I was on the national board, my expenses were paid by the national board. They weren't paid by the local board. But I would say that I would encourage school districts to send people to conferences because you come away with ideas that can help your school system.
Absolutely.
And I really believe in broadening your aspects and trying to do the best that you can for your school children. And that means not doing things the same way forever.
Yeah.
You need to try new things and work on new projects.
Well, our kids are competing on a global scale now. They're not competing against Marion County, Nelson County, Washington County, and Louisville anymore. I mean, we're competing with Japan, Russia, China, and everybody else.
That's absolutely right. You have to lift everyone up. You have to. The children who are having trouble, you have to help them rise up. By the same token, your top students, you need to be able to help get them extra, to do the extra credit things, to do the advanced college prep things, and we do that in high school. I've heard people say that they've been in much larger schools, and that they didn't offer nearly the advanced subjects that Bardstown does.
Well, like I said, and I don't want to mix politics and education, but I would be remiss in saying, that you've also served in other things outside of that and served as the chairman of the Democratic Party in Nelson County. I think the longest running chairman in probably the history of local politics around here.
For 20 years, almost 20 years.
Yeah, and like I said, I know that's even though you're busy, you find time to stay active and make your community a better place to live. So I guess my question is what's next? I mean, obviously we're going to congratulate you on all you've done and all this because it's fantastic. But you still got some more ideas of what you plan
on
to do?
Well, I keep on doing the things I've been doing. I'm involved with CASA, and so I work on that. And I have a little late in life thing on, so I have a little co-host for a radio show where Jim Brooks and I talk about politics. We're both political junkies. He's a Republican, I'm a Democrat, and we present our views but we get along wonderfully well.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about it,
wonderfully well.
If everybody could do that, and we all sit here and present our views and respect each other when we do it, and understand each other, we're all not going to always agree, because obviously, if somebody agreed with me, it'd be a very dull person to deal with. But again, like I said, you're staying busy, staying active, and been doing it for many, many years. And people out there, like I said, want to put a face with what you've seen in your school system or what you've seen in your life. It's people like Margie that I say are the doers that are making a difference in our lives. And I do appreciate you coming in here today and talking to us about it.
Well, thank you so much, Kenny, for asking me. I really appreciate it. And I want to, talking about good school board members, I put in a plug for Andy Stone and Frankie Hibbs running for the local school board.
Well, like I said,
good guys. work hard.
Well, I hope, like I said, I wish all the best because the school boards make more difference than most people realize. And if people understood that, they see the good points. But good, thank you for being here, and
Well,
thank you for all you're
asking me.
done. And appreciate you tuning in and listening in tonight. And hopefully, like I said, there's a lot of good things going on in our world right now. We see all the bad stuff on the news every night and some of the nastiness that's involved in politics and government. But there's a lot of good in government, a whole lot more good than there is bad. So we just want to highlight that and bring Margie in as an example of what some of the good things that's going on in the world today. So thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back with more Community Focus here on Channel 6 TV in just a few minutes.